Good to see everybody again. I purposely did not come in the session before because I didn't want to be tainted by what was being said in there. I talked to people about sessions from yesterday. What was the biggest takeaway from the session right before this? One person. Yes.
AI is the next big thing.
Carl.
Yes, ask AI everything.
Interestingly enough, so I do this now at all of my meetings. I have an app called Wave AI. I put it on my phone. I use it instead of like any of those other recording apps for Zooms or for Google Meets. But it allows me to turn on, transcribes everything that I say, and then it turns it into meeting notes after the fact with action items without needing any prompting. I do this for everything. I have a whole collection of meetings, internal meetings, external meetings. Not only can you look at that individual meeting, but you can query that meeting and ask it about things that happen in that meeting or your whole kind of corpus of data. So I use AI all the time. Good takeaway. Yes, ask AI. I agree. We're going to be talking about AI a little bit today. We're going to be talking about, well, we'll probably talk about AI a lot. My goal for this presentation, when Rob asked me to come back, was to pick up where we left off in September. So everything that we're going to be talking about today is all new as of the last time that I got to speak to all of you. Real quick rundown on me, for those of you who don't know. As Rob said, I am the co-founder of a company called RR Digital. We work only with law firms. Previously, I was the VP of growth at Litify for a little over a year during their high growth phase. I was also the COO before that of a company called LaunchThat, which you probably never heard of, but that's the company behind asbestos.com and drugwatch.com. So I've been in legal marketing in a number of different ways for well over a decade. I also host a podcast, the Jon and Mark podcast. Yeah, we even got stickers. There they are. We release episodes every week. We talk about only one thing and one thing only, which is how to grow your law firm. So I encourage you to listen to that. If you are interested in hearing from people who are actually in the industry talk about what's working for them and for their firm. Rob's episode was great. I also speak at a variety of conferences, and I send out a newsletter every week with strategies and techniques and insights from all the things that we're doing and all the people that I'm talking to. RR Digital as a company, we work with over 40 PI firms, so a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk to you about today are things we've either implemented or are in the process of testing for our clients. I've got 67 team members full-time all across the country. We're headquartered in Orlando, which is where I'm from. And I actually have the pleasure of working with a number of you guys in this room. So very, very fortunate to be here today, and I appreciate any attention that you have to give me at the end of this long multi-day workshop that you guys have been a part of. So throughout this, what I actually did, speaking of AI, is I took all of my podcast episodes for the past 6 months. We started this in June, and I put them in a custom AI model. And I went back through after I created my presentation, and I said, I want validation. I want to know the things that I'm saying in this presentation are actually real things that people have implemented or have talked about. And I asked my little model to give me, after I gave it all of the insights or all of the details of what I was going to be presenting, tell me which episodes I should be referencing. So you'll see throughout, I kind of mentioned different people who are talking about different things that I bring up on screen. My favorite episode is this one. We released it a couple weeks ago. I flew out to LA for the start of the social media addiction trial. I don't know if any of you all are following that. Should be going to jury pretty soon. Matt Bergman and Mark Lanier, both my clients. Bergman sat down with me after the first day of the trial, and we talked about what happened behind closed doors, and it's really super interesting. Just fun fodder. This is the kind of stuff that we like to do. So what are we going to be talking about today? So I tried to boil this down to a few key topics, but we're going to go in a bunch of different directions. We're going to talk about the shift from keywords to recommendations. That's the shift from SEO to AI. We're going to talk about ethical responsibilities when you're using AI at your firm or with a marketing group. And we're going to talk about the specific things that your firm needs to do in order to evolve throughout 2026 and survive into 2027. I also want this to be interactive. So please, at any point in time, and I truly mean this, raise your hand if there's something you want extra clarity on. If you have a question, if you want to know how you could apply this, I want to make this interactive. So do not feel like you are interrupting me in any way. This is absolutely a conversation. And we can pull up examples live. I have no problem doing that. I have a few things that we're going to pull up live, and I'm going to show you how things work. So what is this great decoupling? The first thing I want you to think about is that the historic way of people finding a law firm online started with a keyword, and it led with something that was very clear, and that was a website or a Google business profile. You had one input, you get one of an options of outputs. There was some variation based on your location, based on your search history, but the reality is it was pretty linear. We are now living in a world where you put in a prompt or a query, even into Google, because Google is using AI now all the time, and you are getting what we're going to talk about as probabilistic responses. That means that there is a probability that you are going to receive a certain response. No two responses are the same, ever. They may pull from the same data, but it is always going to be something that is built on the fly. It's not a index like you have with Google, where you put in a keyword and it returns results from that index. At least if you are putting two different keywords, or you're putting in the same keyword and someone else is doing a similar search, you know that if it returns law firm A's website is going to be the same every single time that result pops up. It's going to be that result. That is not the way that AI works. AI is a synthesis of information that is going to give you a response that is never going to be the same twice. Why is this important? So September, what was that, 6 months ago, approximately? We talked about how the search engine results pages were evolving. Well, now we have a bunch of data that we can look at to see what that evolution has actually done. If you look across industries, we're going to call this the click-through rate collapse, CTR. When someone searches, what percentage of people are actually clicking on a result at all, or more specifically, an organic result? And the reality is that across industries, I don't have the data specifically for legal, but you can assume that the data is going to be similar, if not worse, for legal because of all the advertisers and all the different search elements between LSAs, Google Ads, map packs, AI overviews, featured snippets, regular blue links, image packs, video packs, Reddit results. I mean, you can go on and on and on. Short videos about all the different things that have interjected themselves into the search results, that these percentages are probably much more disparate for legal than for products like jeans and headphones.
What's text ad growth? Like, what's text ad? Is that just like getting a text?
Sorry, good question. The size of text ads. So how much space in real estate on the search result page is actually being taken up by ads has increased by an average of about 13 pixels for headphones, 9 pixels for jeans. It's an actual expansion of the elements that are even there, in addition to new elements that are being added. The point here is that it is getting harder and harder for you to get these earned clicks. And there are more and more elements that are available for you to purchase or to earn throughout that search page. It's not just that organic is getting a smaller piece of the pie itself is shrinking, meaning that there are less clicks in total. Whether those are going to paid results or going to organic results, people are receiving what they are meeting their intent in a much quicker way without having to go to that next click. So Google's dream was always, how do I get the user to not leave Google? I want to serve them yet another query so that I can serve them yet another ad. And they finally sort of reached this. This is the type of thing that Google is waiting for an inflection point for them to monetize. It's not there yet, but we're starting to see ads pop up in a bunch of these elements like the AI overviews, like AI mode. The reality is that the amount of clicks that are actually happening are decreasing because AI overviews are giving people their results immediately. If you ask a question like, how long do I have to file a lawsuit in the state of Texas for a car accident, historically that would result in a list of websites. And those websites each would give hopefully the same answer and present it in a different way, and that would be the entrance to your funnel to acquire them as a potential client. Now, those answers are served directly in the search results. So if you ask the question, Google knows the answer because it synthesized the information from those top 10 search results. It knows what the answer actually is, and it returns it back to you. So the amount of clicks are dropping. The amount of clicks that actually reach organic are dropping because more clicks are going to ads. All right, so what does the new search engine result page look like? We could talk about all the individual elements, but one of the ones that is most impactful to lawyers is this one. Let's see if my laser pointer works. Yes. Okay. So what used to be an entirely organic pack, this map pack, now has been infiltrated by the sponsored map listing. All the time I get clients calling us saying, I see a competitor there, how do I get that? And unfortunately, the response is that this is not something that you can directly buy. You can't say, I only want to run map pack ads. They'd make a killing if you could. This is actually run by running traditional Google ads and running what's called the location extension, which you connect to your Google business profile and allows your Google business profile to have the ability to show up in the sponsored map pack. Very, very smart on Google's part. What did they do here? They're now forcing you to buy traditional Google ads, which we know have skyrocketed in competition. The cost per acquisition has skyrocketed because the cost per click has skyrocketed in order to have the ability to buy what is probably the best piece of real estate in the search engine result page. Yes, Adam?
Is it just one that's paid?
Yes. So far. I haven't seen more than one. Has anyone seen more than one? Has anyone seen this at all? Okay. Has anyone seen more than one? No. All right.
So how much does your budget drive your ability to get presented into that?
Your budget is, so let me ask a clarifying question. When you say your budget, you're talking about your global budget or are you talking about your bid?
Like I'll spend $10,000 a month on AdWords.
No, doesn't affect it. What affects it is your bid. It's also the relevancy, right? Because they're looking at things now in your Google business profile to see if you should be showing up there. I wouldn't focus on like, am I spending enough to have Google give me the right to show up? Look at your bids. Make sure the location extension is set up correctly. Make sure your GBP is targeting the things you want it to target. There's no like rule book to what gets you to show up here, but this is sort of like a holy grail for attorneys. And I would recommend that this piece of real estate that you try and pick up if you can.
It's got to be like, when you say bid, so you got to be bidding on like Baltimore car accident lawyer. Or something.
Yeah, so if like Baltimore car accident lawyer triggers a map pack, which I assume that it does, then you have to bid on that keyword in Google Ads and have your location extension turned on to have the ability to show up here. 36%. Paid clicks now account for about 36% of all clicks on a regular search engine result page. Paid, right? So about 1/3 of the clicks are going to paid and about 2/3 are going to other various elements or not clicking at all.
When you say paid, are you including LSA?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yep. Anything where you're paying per click, per lead. Yeah. This was something I did at the beginning of the year. We did a whole episode on like, what are the things that we think are going to happen by the end of the year? And one of our predictions was there was a big spike in, AI Overviews started featuring map packs. I don't know if you guys have seen that. They kind of come in and out, but AI Overviews do have map pack elements in them sometimes. And by the end of 2026, rankings and traffic won't matter. I'm going to still stand by that. I think for the most part, they don't really matter right now at a granular level. They matter in the macro level. Like you want to be moving up and not necessarily moving down. But if you're moving down, it's not always a bad thing because it could be a macro issue and not necessarily due to the efficacy of your actual campaigns. Zero-click search is the new normal. You have to go into all of your marketing digitally and think, I need to show something that may never get clicked. I need to have the ability to be referenced, the potential to be clicked, because the old days, that gold rush is gone. You have to think much more holistically now about your brand and not about direct response. I'm going to caveat that statement with a few things. If you think about how law firm marketing has evolved over the years, if you go back to like the first era of law firms, right? It was billboards, it was yellow pages, it was TV, talking about pre-digital. When digital started really getting traction, as soon as people figured out how to game the system, boom, it became immediately direct response, right? You had people who were either seeking a lawyer and were searching, and then they were getting who knows who, right? Eventually wound up being saturated with lead generators, or they were on social, and they're getting a whole bunch of people who are pitching them on stuff. We have entered this era of accountability. this era of where people are much more cautious about who they're reaching out to for various services, this whole concept of dark social or the things that just don't get tracked because people don't have the ability to be tracked in a way that you could historically track every click. I used to get up on stage and say, if you're not tracking every call, every click, every lead, you're doing something wrong. You can't do that anymore. You can't track every click. I can't tell you what happens when 30 people in Chicago prompt slip and fall lawyer, because all 30 people are all going to get different results. You have to think in this mindset of, what can I do to be as present as possible, as much as possible, and understand that there is going to be some loss in attribution or a large loss of attribution along the way. Being everywhere that your potential claimants are going to be should be your focus. So obviously with something like search, you know that if someone is searching car accident lawyer, that is somewhere that you want to be. Historically, if you wanted to be in front of people who were in car accidents before digital, you were looking at buying TV ads on programs when people were like at home and not working because they were hurt. So like all the judge TV shows, the game shows, used to see a lot and still do see a lot of people advertising for attorneys. Now, you need to think about how can you get those same ads in front of the people that are actually going to take action because they got hurt. And what I mean by that is that when you were running those ads during the game shows and the court shows, there were just people who wanted to watch the court shows and the TV shows and the game shows. Not all of them were necessarily hurt. With creative and data targeting now, you can shape your campaigns across all channels to target the people that you want to target. While costs are going up, your ability to precisely target the people that you want to target has become much, much better, easier to do. For instance, let's talk about streaming. A lot of people are starting to shift budgets from TV over to streaming. Not entirely, but a lot of firms I've spoken to are somewhere in like the 20 to 30% range is what that shift has begun to look like. If you take the same creative on linear TV versus streaming, what are your targeting options? On linear TV, it's really time block, station. Like, what other options do you have, right? You could run it to a separate DMA. Maybe on cable, you can get a little more granular. But if you take that creative and you put it on OTT, all of a sudden, not only can you choose networks, you can choose specific places where your people are without knowing those places. When you're running OTT, the ad that you see, the ad that you see, and the ad that you see watching the same program are different ads. Those ads obviously are tailored directly to you. Could be that you visited a website and you were pixeled on that website and someone's running a retargeting ad. It could be that you're in the 35 to 55 male demographic in a specific zip code at a specific income level with data that was provided by a data company and pushed into these OTT platforms. And that is exactly what you want to target because you've done the research and you know that your database of clients is 35 to 55 people in that zip code, right? You can match the exact demographics of your existing clientele or the clientele you want to target with the programming, regardless of where those programs are. That was a long way of saying you need to be omnipresent. And the reality is that this mindset of I need to dominate search and I need to get all of the clicks is not the mindset that will work as we moved into 2027. It's already started to become this way. And I think I had actually years on this. Yeah. So, by the way, I built this deck with AI, in case you were wondering. There's an app called Gamma, $25 a month. Amazing. So yeah, you can see Gamma, Gamma. I think it's gamma.app. But yeah, like I don't think this has stopped. We're going to see less and less searches actually resulting in a click. So big takeaways from this, right? Three pieces of data. 60 to 65% of searches result in no click. Do you remember the old featured snippets? We don't see them anymore, right? But featured snippet were those blocks that sort of gave you your answer right at the top of search. Those are gone. They've been replaced with AI overviews, but the click-through rate on featured snippets was about 43%. It was essentially, we used to call it position zero at the agency. right? It was so much better than position one. You were usually above the ads. And the idea there was let's give the user exactly what they're looking for as quick as possible. Because Google's mindset is how do we keep them on Google? Users are happy. That's all that matters. Everything else will follow. Now, that same spot, look at that difference. Massive shift. Same real estate, effectively the same way that you obtain that spot, but now you've got the information actually being presented in a consumable way, potentially being personalized to you if you're signed in, alongside other competitors, links not being like blatantly obvious for you to click on, sometimes buried in the sources. We can go on and on about why that click-through rate has decreased, but the reality is that it has decreased. And this was something that we saw a lot of clients get a lot of cases from. We would find informational queries that people would search for all the time, like how long do I have to file a lawsuit for a car accident in Texas? And we would earn the featured snippet, and that would yield leads and that would yield cases. And that doesn't happen anymore because the answer is given, so you can't get them to enter your funnel. So how do you actually do this? If you want, Rob, if you're okay with it, I can give out the presentation after so people don't have to take pictures and write down this stuff. There's a lot of information here. You need to think about this both like a human and like a machine. And the answer is surprisingly simple if you look at it through this lens. When you are seeking information, what makes you pick one piece of information over another? If you have a plethora of options, right? I've got 10 books here, and all of those books are books about X. Why would I pick one over the other? Reviews. I want to know as much information as I can, as quickly and easy as possible. I think that's what most people want, right? How do I get my answer with as least friction as possible? And machines are doing this the exact same way. Everything that we're going to talk about for optimizing for AI, we use this term called fitness. Are you fit for this query? Are you the result, the piece of data that AI, not just from a contextual perspective, but from a technical perspective, are you that piece of data that I should be surfacing? When I go to your webpage, do I have 5,000 words and good information buried somewhere in those 5,000 words? Or do I have 500 words and my intent is met immediately when I hit that page? It sounds so simple when you think about it that way. Both a human wants their answer right away, doesn't want to scroll through a bunch of ads, doesn't want to scroll through a bunch of copy, and a machine. We're living in an era where you've got Tesla, SpaceX, talking about putting satellites up in space to get solar power because AI uses so much energy. There's potential laws being passed about limitations on energy creation just to support AI. Every little bit of data that AI has to consume is eating up one more piece of energy. So as much as you can get in as condensed a bit as possible, that's what you want to do for humans and for machines. So the differentiation factor, going back to how do you choose something, in addition to choosing the one that meets your intent right away, what you want is the one that is the most unique. If I've got 9 that are the same and I've got one that's different, I'm probably going to choose the one that's different. So you have to think about all of the things that you're doing. I'm not just talking about content. All of the activities that you're doing from a marketing perspective that at any point will go through AI in any way on this matrix. Are the things that you're doing easy to consume for humans and for machines? And are they adding value to the conversation? When you look at why AI surfaces the things that it surfaces and the multiple methods by which it's able to grab that information, there's really only 2 ways. One is what's called grounding. So these models are trained on a ton of information. These are the easy to answer questions, right? What's 2 plus 2? What's the statute of limitations for a car accident in Texas? Things that like it knows are fact. Those are just stored in the model. Then there's this other piece of the model. We talked about this a little bit back in September. It's called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Don't worry about the acronym. But what that means is that AI isn't confident enough in the answer. It's going to go out to the open internet and get the answer. And it's going to synthesize that information and combine it with what it has in its memory. That unique information is the information gain. And you need to validate that the things that you are adding to the conversation, your unique perspectives, your case results, the things about you that stand out amongst the 10 other books on the table, that those things are not just things that you're saying, but things that other people are saying about you. This is just highlighting rank tracking and the efficacy of it. Right now, rank tracking directionally, I would say, is accurate. But the reality is, again, by the time you get to the end of this year, I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to accurate or worth investing in any sort of resources to track ranking. My team was talking about this. Someone searched Oakland personal injury lawyer. They were in incognito, they were in different parts of the country, and you had 4 different results on where they were sitting on the page, the client that we have. Just happens all the time. You need to think about, am I getting a share of a recommendation if it's AI? And if it's search, do I have enough visibility on that real estate? What is my pixel real estate? I like to tell clients, if you've figured out that there is something that is going to get you qualified cases, that you lean into that as much as you can until you can't anymore. So if that's a specific keyword that you figured out, or a cluster of keywords or a topic, buy the Google ad, buy the LSA, make sure you're ranking in the map, make sure you're ranking organically, make sure you have AIO visibility, make sure you have a video about that topic in case a video pack shows up. Try to own as much of that real estate. Don't think about it as organic or paid, because that is going to shift. Whatever that real estate is, if it's valuable to you, you need to think about investing in acquiring that piece of real estate on the search result page. All right, so we've moved from this concept of search engines providing you information by retrieving websites from its index to this era, and I hate the term GEO. I just put it up here so we can clearly differentiate between doing search engine optimization and then optimizing for AI. You need to do all of the SEO things so that you continue to rank in search. And because of what we talked about earlier, this concept of AI going out to the open internet and getting results, it's looking at what's ranking organically through search to grab those results. So you still need to do traditional SEO to be effective on GEO. But there's also more. So I like to refer to it as like SEO plus. You need to do SEO, but you need to do it at a much higher level, where you are doing things like optimizing for entity mapping, right? What are the concepts, the entities, when someone is talking about an accident or an injury related to your firm in your market? There's all different types of entities that could be mentioned. I'm going to show you how Google does this, but you need to think about the people involved. You need to think about the places involved, people, places, things involved. You need to think about anything that could, any noun, proper noun, or non-proper noun that can be connected to that concept. That is how AI understands whether or not your content is actually relevant. The stark contrast between the old way of doing SEO and picking specific keywords and writing those keywords as many times as you can into a page or in different variants, it is very, very different. Very different.
John, is that,
Yeah.
I'm just struggling with the word entity. Is that
Yeah.
everything you just described? Like who was in the accident, where the accident was, like,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Insurance companies, literally at cars, trucks, specific roads in general, right? You need to think and like map out everything from an entity perspective, not just from a concept perspective. It's more so like when you're actually executing versus on the strategy side. I'll show you how we do this. So we talk about this difference between grounded responses, and Google calls them query fanouts, but that's this RAG concept, right? Where you put in a search and then, or a prompt, and then it breaks it into topics, and then those topics, it runs searches and pulls in those results from those searches. There's even a test right now you could sign up for with Google called WebGuide. Has anyone seen that? No? WebGuide it's a single page of Google without the pagination. So you can't go to the next page. You put in your search, it gives you a breakdown of the different things that search could mean. So what are the different intents? So if I search Disney World, right? One chunk of intent is how do I get to Disney World? One chunk of intent is what are the rides at Disney World? One chunk of intent is How do I book a vacation for Disney World? And then each of those, it gives you 2 or 3 results, like actual real web results. That is sort of simulating what Google is doing with this query fan out. It's breaking your intent into topics, running those searches, and pulling back results. So when you're optimizing for AI, you're really just doing SEO for each of those topics because you want to rank for each of those subtopics. Ways that you can do this. How to influence the training data specifically. When I say the training data, it's the grounding data. That's the information that these LLMs are trained on. You may not realize this, but ChatGPT 5, I believe its training set is over a year old. Anything beyond that date, it's going out to the open internet and it's pulling the information in. And you never know when those models are going to get updated or what model someone is using, but you need to influence that training data. It needs to understand at its core level that the things that you are saying are important. So how do you do that? Press releases. Not just putting them out into the ether, putting a very specific press release out with the intent of getting media coverage, where that media coverage could then reference your firm and the entities at your firm and the things that you're doing. The more others are mentioning you in certain contexts, the more these AI models are going to understand who you are and what you do and what you're good at. Reviews. Google reviews, obviously, but Better Business Bureau is getting pulled in. Yelp, as much as Yelp sucks, and I know everyone has tried to get Yelp reviews and can't. Yelp is getting pulled in. I've even seen like reviews and comments on like the super lawyers and FindLaw and like all the aggregators get pulled in as well. So this single mindset of like, I have to focus on Google, my Google business profile, it's important, but really it's about like, what are people saying about you everywhere where they could be saying something about you. Information gain, we talked about unique content, understanding the intent of the queries that people are doing, and then making sure you're not just fulfilling the car accident lawyer intent, but all of those sub-intents. Again, just good SEO, right? Creating topical subpages and clusters about specific topics, and then lead with solutions, then support with data. Something I encourage you all to do is do a search in AI where you would expect your firm to show up. If your firm doesn't show up, ask the AI model why. It will, it's not going to be 100% accurate, right? These things are probabilities. It's using the information that it has, but it will give you good direction. I had a client who kept saying, why am I not showing up for car accident lawyer, whatever this market is in AI, but I'm doing so well in SEO. And we asked, and what did it say? There are instances across the internet that are talking about poor communication between clients and your firm. So we said, okay, we have to fix that. We can't fix what people are saying everywhere else on the internet, but what we can do is we are the most authoritative source on our law firm. We can say, this is how we handle client communication, and then here is proof of how we do that. So you create, in that instance, a client communication page and how we deal with client communication. You put testimonials from clients talking about how great your communication is. You talk about your process and all the things that you do to enhance client communication. And we effectively train the AI to understand that the information that was out there was not factually true. And then they showed up for those queries. Models are released very, very regularly, and you don't always know what model someone is using. We had Gemini 3.1 release a few weeks ago. Earlier this week, Nano Banana 2, for those of you who play around with the image generation, was released. A week ago, Google released the ability to create songs up to 30 seconds from a prompt. Things are moving so fast, and these AIs are getting more and more like humans, but they're not humans yet. The current model for Gemini, which is what's being used all within Google, at least in the Pro version, 3 is in the free version if people aren't using Pro, is very advanced. But it has its limits. So let's talk about that ability to get your answer as quickly as possible, the desire to save energy. Here's a great tangible example. Google changed their documentation a couple weeks ago, And they said, 2,000 words, that's it. We don't consume any more than that. And the reality is that it actually consumes or cites significantly less than that. 44% of all citations come from the first 30% of a page. So if you're trying to write a better page than your competitor, it's not always writing a longer page or copying what they're doing. Potentially, it's about writing a shorter page and getting to the answer as quickly as possible. That's going to help users. It's going to help AI. But that is a real-time change, 2,000 word limit. This is talking about kind of how that query fanout works. I won't bore with the details, but I want to show you guys this. So let's see if this works. Someone give me their website. We'll do this live. Takers?
Advocateslaw.com.
You're out of it. What is it?
Advocateslaw.com.
Okay. Cool. What's a keyword that you think you should be ranking for?
Car accident. Do I have to say one word?
No.
I don't know, Jason
Yeah.
shoot.
Personal injury lawyers. Just
Okay.
go high level, I guess.
And what market?
Seattle.
Okay. So I built a custom gem, which is just a custom AI model. Anyone can do this in Gemini. ChatGPT allows you to do it. And I can show you the instructions that I put in. This took me 15 minutes to do.
You built a what?
Gem. So Gemini, you build gems. On ChatGPT, it's something else. I forget what they're called. I just do everything in Gemini. I've realized that like Google's going to drive everything, so I just do everything in Google now. I got rid of my ChatGPT description. But what this is doing is it's taking personal injury lawyers, the query, it's simulating that it's in Seattle, it's breaking that search result up into sub-searches, it's doing a simulated query fanout, and then it's coming back and it's telling us what it found in relation to your firm, whether you're showing up or not, and what you need to change. Intent 1, local commercial, immediate hiring intent. So it's saying people would also search best personal injury lawyer, Seattle, Washington, personal injury attorney near me, Seattle, and Seattle personal injury law firm free consultation. The second intent, vetting affordability. So they're going to look at how much does a personal injury lawyer cost, contingency fee percentage. The third is trust and proof. So they're going to Google your reviews, case results and settlements. And then the fourth intent, niche alignment. So is this the only thing that you guys care about in relation to injury, or do you have like other relevant topics? All right. So then it ran a gap analysis. Are you ranking for those keywords is what it's looking for. The site does an excellent job capturing local intent and sub-niches. They have dedicated pages mapping directly to queries like Seattle car accident injury lawyer, which you remember, we didn't do car accident injury lawyer. We did personal injury lawyer and wrongful death lawyer. Individual attorney profile pages are well indexed for Seattle, Washington related queries. So there's that entity mapping, right? It's looking at the people. Are those people relevant to this market? The firm provides a highly specific answer to query 4. When we recover a settlement for you, we retain 1/3 of the total amount as our fee. So when someone's looking for what is the contingency fee, AI does not like vagueness. It likes very specific answers. Got to be careful here because a lot of times people will ask, what's the average amount that this firm has gotten? You guys all know the ethical limitations there. So here's a gap. This excellent definitive data point is buried in general FAQs and peripheral location pages like Bellingham or Beaverton, rather than being front and center on the main Seattle landing page where Seattle searches are looking for it. Actionable advice. Trust and proof. Low coverage. So it broke it up into like, you're doing well, high coverage, you're doing okay, here's some ways to improve, and then these are things that you have low coverage. So this is the domain's biggest vulnerability. Queries for case results and settlements yield virtually no dedicated outcome pages. Search engines prioritize hard data, Here we go. Dollar amounts, specific case facts to satisfy trust intents. And this site relies too heavily on general marketing copy. We recovered over $500 million rather than itemized local case results. Action plan. Build a strong Seattle case results hub, create a dedicated page detailing specific anonymized Seattle settlements, but noting specific dollar amount for a specific accident. Unbury the fee structure, aggregate local reviews, and then it tells you for the queries, did you have a page show up or not? These types of things, if you can think about what actually has to get done, you can have AI do all this work for you. We run this stuff constantly to see where the opportunities are, because not only are the main keyword results changing that you're trying to rank for and what that search page is looking like, but all of the sub-queries. It becomes not only difficult for a human to do this, it becomes unmanageable for someone to do this type of work at scale. AI should augment human intellect and not replace. The amount of work that can get done, both marketing work and just work in the firm in general, if you're applying the right tools to the right problem with the right people, is incredible. This past week, Jack Dorsey fired half of his staff at his start. Jack Dorsey was the former founder of Square and Twitter. He had a new company called Block, laid off 40% of the people, put out a public press release, and he said, I'm firing 40% of my staff because AI could do their job. Like, that is not a sustainable business model. What about the other 60% of the people? What about the people that are training the AI models? You have to think about how do you take tools like this and whatever you guys were taught in the session before this to build and apply them to the actual problems that wind up being very, very difficult for humans to do at scale. And this is one of those. I'll show you guys how I built this. It doesn't let me make it bigger, but literally you go into Gemini, you say you want to create a gem, you give it a name, you give it instructions, which is basically like a prompt that it always runs before it runs your prompt, and then it just gives you the results. That's it, and anyone can use it. And I've got a ton of these. Got another one here. So I thought, what are the things that law firms need to do in a local market that are very, very labor intensive for them to figure out, how do I actually get this stuff done? And I said, identifying events in the community that align with the firm. Other than just manually seeking this stuff out, how do you do it? So, built a system to do it. I put in a market. I did it this morning, so we don't have to run it again. But here I just did Denver and I said personal injury, and it gives you immediately, I'll just go down to this because this is what's most important. Here's a list of events. Boom, have your marketing person click through. Now you don't have to build something that's like a system like this to do it. You can still do this type of work with a simple prompt. If you feed it enough information, the context that you're giving AI is extremely important, because in the absence of information, what happens? It makes shit up. I also have examples of it making shit up this morning that I will show you guys in a little bit. So this era of keywords was very much about exact match. And over the past decade, Google started to understand what do words actually mean. So when you do things that are referencing attorneys, they also know that an attorney is also a lawyer. You didn't have to have a page for car accident lawyer and a page for car accident attorney. But now Google is understanding and AI is understanding the meaning behind those words. So it's not just synonyms. The actual context is extremely important. What does this mean for SEO? Create context-rich content. So make sure that when you're talking about things that they are within context about how your firm specifically is able to do these things or has done these things with varied terminology and natural language, and focus on semantic relevance, entities, not just keywords. Use internal linking, it's SEO best practice. And then group around themes and not just keywords. This is where it gets both complex and interesting, and I'm not going to lean too heavy into the mathematical side of this, but I will show you what actually happens. You need to think about all those entities that we were talking about before. Think of it as if these things were like orbiting around in a 3D space. right? You've got your firm, you've got words like liability, insurance company, mass torts, car accident, and everything is a distance apart from everything else. That's the way that AI thinks about entities and topics. And the closer you are to a cluster of things that are all relevant to what you actually want to show up for, the more likely you're going to show up for it. It does this stuff in a very complex way in real time. There's a ton of math behind it, but it is, again, very different from the things that you used to think about when you were trying to rank for SEO purposes. AI also exhibits positional bias. So if something is earlier on in something, first word in a sentence, first sentence in a paragraph, first heading on a page, first word in your title, first word in the URL, it is going to focus and give more weight to that. So this reinforces that concept that we were talking about before, being condensed, giving the answers right away. It wants to use as little energy as possible to accomplish its goal. The concept of probabilistic versus deterministic, I think we touched on that already. This is my example from this morning, and it may be a little hard to see. I just cut and pasted a screenshot. But I asked, someone in our company said, hey, I have a client. They want to know how many more reviews do they need in order to get to a 4.9. We actually do get this question a lot, right? So 2 years ago, I built a calculator for this in a Google spreadsheet, but this employee wasn't there at the time. So I've got Gemini hooked up to my personal Google account. And I gave it connections to my Gmail. I gave it connections to my Google Drive. I gave it connections to my calendar. Only do this if you know what you're sharing and making sure that you actually have the plans that don't train on your data. Very important. Like I have the high-end Google plan, which doesn't do this. So I said, I need you to find it for me. I looked in my Google Drive. It was probably an unnamed spreadsheet. I had no idea. Simply prompted. Somewhere in my Google Sheets is a calculator to determine how many reviews are needed, change your review score, find it for me. And it responded with the biggest hallucination that I've ever seen an AI make to me. I've seen others like post screenshots of it, but this made absolutely no sense.
What's it say?
It says, I need your help with an email responding directly to some feedback I've gotten from my boss about a proposal I've sent her. Can you try to match my voice, taking an affirmative tone, but making it clear that incorporating this feedback is going to require me to work overtime? Here is her email. Makes no sense. The reason why I want to show this to you is because people are trusting of what they get back from these systems, and the reality is, a lot of times, it's fucking garbage. I'll give you another example. This happened to me last week. My wife and I are moving in a couple of weeks, and we wanted to make sure that we understood the square footage of each floor of the house and of each room. And we had a floor plan, and it had all these architectural dimensions on it. And I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it in AI. I'm going to have it tell me. And I did it, and I got a number. And then my wife did it, and she got a different number. And then we went and asked the real estate agent, we got a different number. And then we went on the property appraiser, and we got a different number. So I ran it again, and I was very specific about my instructions. And its response, when I told it it was wrong, was, oh, you're right.
Yeah. Good catch.
This is this concept of probability. It is giving you what it thinks is the most likely answer to whatever you're asking it. But if it doesn't have enough information, it's not going to tell you it doesn't know. When has AI ever told you it doesn't have an answer? It doesn't. It makes shit up, but it doesn't tell you when it makes shit up. Real humans are out there trusting information like, what was it? Can I put glue on pizza? Was that what, like a couple of years ago? Right? Like, these things are happening all of the time. All the time. AI is heavily influenceable. People are seeding maliciously. They are seeding information into AI. I have a great one for you. Someone figured out last week, and you could Google this, I don't remember what company it was, but someone figured out that if I can get AI to show my phone number that I've created instead of a bank's phone number, that when people Google that bank to get the phone number, it's going to show the fake phone number. And it worked. And he phished hundreds of people and stole their money by having people answer that phone, because these were inbound phone calls. And do you know how he did it? all the tactics that I was showing you at massive scale, very quickly, and it influenced the AI, and the AI served up the response that this person wanted it to show up.
So they could do that with lawyers and just replace the.
So we could do that with other law firms and program our phone number.
I just said.
Oh, is that what you said? I didn't hear you.
Great minds think alike. No, I mean, I'm not encouraging you to do things nefariously. I want to give you guys the awareness of what's actually going on and how these things actually work, because it is not what people think. When you ask your Google Home or you ask your Alexa the answer to a question, it doesn't give you a citation. It doesn't tell you its source unless you ask it. Maybe if it has a screen, it might show you a source. It's taking this random thing that you asked it in a whole bunch of words, and it's giving you back one answer that may be incredibly wrong. When you ask AI an even more specific question and it doesn't know, it's going to give you even more elaborate answer than what you're getting from your Google Home or from your Alexa, because it has the ability to show you all this information that it made up. Okay, so what are some of the things that you can actually control? I call this navigational noise, right? When you open up your website and you have that top navigation, right? Let's go back to this concept of like, I'm picking a book, right? Is it easier for you to pick when the top navigation has just 4 or 5 things to pick from? Or when you open up one of those giant mega menus and you've got like 100 different links? The answer is obviously the first one, but everyone is thinking like, I got to put all my different practice areas up in the top nav. And my SEO guy is telling me that if it's not in the top nav, it's not relevant. You have to think about things through a different lens. What is the path that gets people to their desired place and gets a machine to its desired place as quickly as possible? Now, I'm not saying eliminate your navigation. I don't want that to be your takeaway, but I want you to think about these things. If you're putting something in your navigation, if you have 50 things, well, that weight is going to be split across those 50 things. Granted, proximity bias, we talked about that. The stuff earlier on is going to be more valuable than the stuff later in that menu, but you're still splitting that value across 50 different things. If you only have 5 things there, well, that means those 5 things are probably pretty important. So think about that. And navigation is just one example, right? Everything that you are doing now is not just being read by humans, it's being read by machines, and they're interpreting what it means and how valuable the things within it are. So we look at SEO versus GEO, right? Focus, document-led, right? I'm ranking a page or a Google business profile or a thing, right? Versus problem-led. I don't care about the page. My page is not really what matters. I care about, is that problem being solved? Is the intent met? Could be through written copy, could be through a video, could be through someone else on their website or in their app or on their social media talking about me. How do you do this? Keyword strings, written copy versus entities and solutions. Focus on the different things that are relevant and then framing them within a way where you are actually providing the solution. Your goal in SEO, traffic, clicks, eventually cases. Your goal in GEO, recommendation and fitness. You want to be recommended. You want to be the most fit to meet that user intent, regardless of what the prompt is. The logic, SEO, retrieving from an index. Here's your web page. GEO, probabilistic fitness. Do I think that you are at a high probability of what the user wants when I take that and the 10 other things that I'm going to synthesize down to give you your response? So this concept of problem solution fit comes from business to business marketing. Business has a need. That is a problem. You want to focus on what is the solution to that problem, not features. You want to focus on what it is that that end user needs or that business needs, and how do you meet that intent. People have always said, good SEOs have always said, this is what you need to do. Google keeps telling us to do this, but yet the search results are showing something different, right? Oh no, I have to spin out a page for every geo. I have to spin out a page for every keyword variation. We're finally at this point where this kind of stuff, where you're actually meeting user intent, really means something. Keywords are approximations of user intent, but the real problems are specific and detailed. Now you can't attempt to meet every single person's intent, meet every single one of their problems, but you can try and identify What are the key problems that your potential clients will have, and how do you solve those problems? It's not just about finding a lawyer. Finding a lawyer entails, am I getting the right lawyer that's going to communicate with me the way I want to be communicated, that's going to get me what I actually deserve financially, that's going to understand how to run the process in this jurisdiction, in this practice area. AI hates ambiguity, hates it. That's when it makes stuff up. So the more specific you can be and the more reinforcing of the things you're saying that you can be, whether it's you finding other things that you can do to reference and back up your claim, or having others on other websites or other entities reference you to validate your claim. So think about things in this framework. What's your offering? What specific problem does it solve? Who's it for? How do we solve it? How is it different from competitors? And where is the proof? It's just sort of a good framework to work through anytime you're thinking about what are the things that we need to do from a marketing perspective. Because AI sees it all. Whether you think about it or not, you think AI may not see your billboard? Someone's taking a picture of that billboard and posting on a Reddit on the billboard thread of the Rob Levine billboards. Or there's a Reddit thread that we share internally of like worst lawyer billboards, right? You never know where you're going to show up. So the tangible advice here, tell your writers to write, or when you create content, write in what's called a semantic triple. That's how AI consumes words, subject, predicate, object. This is where the ambiguity needs to be removed. So instead of saying, our lead attorney has litigated 50 plus spinal cord cases, our lead attorney, Joe Smith, who's been with the firm for 30 years, has litigated 50 plus spinal cord cases. Our firm secured 24 million, that's the subject, or our firm is the subject, predicate, secured 24 million in total recoveries, object, for spinal cord clients in 2025. This whole concept of like beginning, middle, end in all of the writing removes all of the fluff. If you think about like all of the marketing copy that you may have on your social media, on your website, in your videos, you remove all that garbage when you think about things through this context. You may have heard a lot of people talk about chunking their content, right? I need to put it in consumable bits. Yes, but also context matters. So I like to think about this from, if I'm going to write a paragraph about traffic in 17th and Spruce outside, that paragraph needs to have a link that's contextually relevant to something about that. The header needs to be about traffic in 17th or Spruce. I need to be surrounding the words with relevant words about 17th Spruce traffic. You need to think about each of these things in specific information packages, and then how do you validate the information that you're giving people with references? It could be that link, or it could be something about your firm. It could be an external link. It could be an image. More about how you do this, right? These recommendation engines, AIs, evaluate your fitness for specific queries or prompts, and they look at third-party presence to build what are called fitness signals. SEO, you think backlinks. GEO or AI, you got to think about fitness signals, because it's not always a link. I would actually rather have a CNN or a New York Times mention one of our clients without a link than have some like small garbage mom blog website give a backlink on a largely irrelevant topic. Now that AI is actually able to consume everything everywhere all the time, it's mapping those entities. It doesn't need the links. And your goal is obviously to be the most fit to meet the need that user is prompting. Okay, so how do you create things that add uniqueness to topics that are largely routine and repetitive in your market? Right? A lot of this stuff we're talking about, when you really boil it down, it's personal injury in Seattle, right? How does your personal injury in Seattle differ from someone else's personal injury in Seattle? So we'll talk about specific ways that you can do this. I'm going to give you examples from some of our clients on how we've done this. We'll call this building an entity moat. We're going to own a topic with your brand. So think about something that's tangentially related to a practice area that you have. How do you get your brand to now be so vital to that topic that it shows up outside of your market? That's the way to think about this. So we said, okay, we're going to run a survey. We're going to reach out. There's different tools you can do this. We're going to reach out to 100 or 200 women who are pregnant, and we're going to poll them on specific questions about driving while pregnant. Do you feel safe? Do you wear a seatbelt? Would you rather drive or be a passenger? We run through a whole bunch of different variations, and we created what we believe is the definitive first-person guide on driving while pregnant. That now ranks for driving while pregnant. This is the page. So we actually originally had this page without the survey. We created the page, didn't really do anything for the client, so we said we're going to add unique information. We put the stats in. Only 50% of respondents felt very satisfied or satisfied with the resources available. How much anxiety do you experience? We now have created data, believe it or not, in this big world that did not exist previously and associated it with this law firm. Talk about entity mapping. Driving, very important, right? Safety, very important. Accidents and injuries, very important. So this was a deliberate effort to tie, the images aren't loading because the internet's bad, but to combine this law firm's visibility and brand with that topic. And it works. Why is this important? Because now and into the future, fame and brand recognition are what I would consider the new ranking factors. Mentions, references, just being put in the conversation is what you need to be focusing on. It's a very difficult to measure KPI. How do I know that I'm getting more famous? How do I know that my brand has more visibility? You can use various share of voice tracking systems to try and estimate, but the reality is that you can't. So while we've taken a step forward in technology, we've actually taken a step backwards in attribution. We don't know necessarily what's influencing, which is why I'll go back to the beginning of my talk. You need to be omnipresent in front of the people that you want to become your clients. These are just example ways to do this. So right now, AI is, whether you're using it this way or not, it is agentic. And what do I mean by agentic? There are sub-agents, there are things happening in a process that are then being pulled back in to the main system. It looks to you like things are happening in a single conversation, but the reality is that all of these sub-processes are happening and you don't have visibility into them. You may have some, right? We did the query fan-out testing, but the reality is that even Google's engineers, OpenAI's engineers, they don't know what's actually happening behind the scenes. The systems are taking over. Anyone heard of OpenClaw over the past couple weeks? Right? Like that was a system, a forum that was built for AI agents to communicate with each other and do their own things. It's crazy what these agents can do. Then think, they also hallucinate, right? They also make shit up. It's scary. Lots of advanced models that are coming out and different things that you can do with these models. People have talked about agentic intake. Could happen either through forms. There's like bots that can kind of chat back with you, or voice agents. I don't think the technology is there yet. I think we're getting closer, but eventually you'll have, like right now, if you go to like certain markets, you can click on a pizza shop or a flower shop and like tell the AI what you want to know, and it will deploy an agent with a voice to call the pizza shop and ask them how much and how long will it take for a pizza delivery right now? Or what do you charge for a large mushroom pizza? Or do you have any specials today? Eventually, the other end is going to get answered by an agent too. And you're going to have two agents talking to each other. It's not happening in your law firm yet, but it will. And you need to be prepared for this by understanding what's actually happening. I know it's very complex. The way that I think firms should be approaching this is by thinking about who internally is going to be the knowledge owner on AI. Because this is not going to slow down. Bless you. Whether it's for using it for your firm, whether it's your agencies that are using it for marketing, or whether it's your clients are using it, you need to think about how are we going to be evolving as the macro economy is changing and adopting AI at rapid, rapid pace. We'll skip that. We talked about a lot of that stuff. I'm sure you guys know that AI can read images, it can see videos, it can transcribe things, audio in real time and understand what's being said. I have not found an AI yet that can understand emotion, though Rob and I were talking about that last week. But eventually, I'm sure it will. There's the ability to ingest multimodal content, videos, copy, photos, charts, and then there's the ability to create. And you can now do both with AI. So the most cited thing in AI right now, at least on Google's side, is YouTube. Everybody talked about Reddit a year ago. YouTube is by far the most dominant citation within AI. 37% year over year growth in organic click volume. Now, granted, YouTube is owned by Google, so they can push more traffic that way if they want. But I think that what they're doing is meeting user needs. If you think about this, as AI has gotten more and more capable at meeting user intent, people are leaning more and more towards the opposite of that. They want to see video. They want to hear real things from real people. They want proof. So the AI is thinking, all right, I don't want to lose to video. I'm just going to take video and I'm going to use those insights within my knowledge. And that's what I'm going to serve up as results. No one can replicate you. When we talk about information gain and the ability to create unique content, if you get in front of a camera, don't worry about quality. Quantity is much more important. As long as you are picking up a camera and speaking to your target audience in the way that they want to be spoken to and producing as much video content as you can, short form, 2 minutes and under, or 90 seconds and under, put it on YouTube Shorts. Long form, put it on YouTube. Don't worry about how you look. I'm telling you, speed is so much more important. So much more important. We have clients like here, right? He did a YouTube video, got 70,000 views in 3 days. There was like a nursing home explosion in Pennsylvania. He just created a quick video about it. Boom, just took off. Everybody was looking this thing up. It made national news.
Question? What's
Yes.
your opinion on video watch pages?
I mean, you need them for SEO. You don't have the ability to actually get the video to show in the results if you don't have a video watch page.
I don't know if everybody knows that.
So a video watch page is a page that exists on your site where the main content is just the video, the YouTube video, and then you have some supporting content underneath. But when someone gets to that page, the majority of what they see, if not the entirety, is just the video. If you look in Google Search Console or you talk to your marketing team, have them look in Google Search Console, there's a video tab. It will tell you which videos are indexed and which videos are not. And it'll tell you why. And it's usually because you don't have a video watch page. So I know there's a bunch of different video hosting platforms, Wistia, there's a handful of other ones. Use the free one. Put it on YouTube. Everything, put it on YouTube. You'll have the ability to show up within YouTube itself. You'll have the ability to show up within those video carousels on Google Search. You'll have the ability to show up in the video tab in Google Search. You'll show up in the AI overviews. You use the videos on your web pages to make your web pages better. You could transcribe them and you could turn them into social clips. You just continue to repurpose that same video. If you take one thing away from this conversation, produce as much video as you can, as often as you can. So yes, AI can transcribe the video, but I highly recommend that you transcribe the video yourself and you actually put it on the page. I like to use collapsible elements so people don't have to see the transcript on the page. If they don't want to, they can just open the little accordion and see it. But again, going back to that concept of like AI and humans are trying to use as little energy as possible. Don't force AI to transcribe your video, give it the transcript, let it consume it quicker. User-generated content. So we're talking about things like Reddit, we're talking about non-owned YouTube, other people's YouTubes, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere on the internet where people can talk about you, like post a comment, post a video, post a photo. That stuff does help because it is very difficult to game the system. Very difficult. I know there are companies out there trying to pitch like, we'll inject your brand into conversations on Reddit. It's just another loophole that's going to wind up getting filled. You have to think about, why would someone say something positive or negative about me on one of these platforms, and how do I do better at those things so that more people are going to go do that, as opposed to trying to get people to fake it. Because eventually the jig will be up and it won't work. But that stuff is going to enhance your fitness to show up for different relevant prompts and queries, because you've got now real entities out there that are connected to their profiles and their history of what they have talked about. The more relevant things that they've talked about relevant to you, the more impact that will have. Closer in the 3D model. Fame, very important. Can't measure it, but highly recommend that if you're not doing some type of PR, that you think about it. Doesn't have to be hiring a PR agency. It could just be making sure that anytime you have something that you deem newsworthy, that you're just getting it out to anyone who's influential in your markets. That third-party validation, again, without a backlink, is still extremely important. So how do you think about fame, right? What happens offline, you have to bring it online. Digital PR. A lot of people talk about digital PR. We're going to talk about what digital PR actually is. Tangible things that you can do. Data-driven surveys and studies. We showed you guys that one already. Not only will that generate backlinks, it will get cited when you have writers who are looking for statistics on driving while pregnant. They will find you as a source. They will reference you. Podcasting, whether that's hosting your own podcast or being a guest on someone else's podcast, that is putting yourself outside of your own website and giving you the ability to talk about topics that you want to talk about, mention the entities that are relevant to you. Press releases and digital media coverage. It's one thing to be in a newspaper. It's another thing to be in the online version of that newspaper, not behind a paywall. If it can get crawled, it is being consumed. Guarantee you that. Social media, both your own social media as well as other people's social medias. So that's why we have influencer collaborations. This is something I am tripling down on this year. Finding influencers in your market, leveraging their audience, paying them to create a post with you, and then they post it to their audience, you post it to your audience, and you push paid dollars behind it. You are now getting someone else talking about you in the way that you want to be spoken about, and then that also can be advertising. You push that out as an ad. The bigger their audience, the more relevant their audience. Well, I shouldn't say that. The bigger their audience, the more engaged their audience, the more expensive those collaborations are going to cost. The way that I've been thinking about this is setting up a calendar and testing 1 to 2 a week and figuring out what is the angle that is resonating most. What are we getting the most engagement on? How are we getting more followers? Are the paid ads that we're running with these people actually working? You're building a creative library, even if the organic collaborations don't work, that you could then cut up and use for social ads. You could then use them on your TV commercials. You can use those anywhere on your website. Leverage someone else's fame for your own benefit. You got to pay them for it. Expert contributions. Every local media outlet has someone that they go to anytime they need to talk about a case. Make sure that you work your way into that. Awards and sponsorships. It should not be an afterthought. You should actually have a managed list of all of the awards, all of the directories, all of the sponsorships that you guys have, and manage those and make sure that you're referenced appropriately within them. Are you talked about as a personal injury lawyer, or are you talked about as a car accident lawyer, or are you talked about as a stellar truck accident lawyer? These are external signals that are going to influence AI in search. Community engagement, being active in the community, multiple benefits of this. I know I'm saying digital PR, but community engagement is happening offline. You could then take some of these other things and bring that online. If you have events, if you're going to festivals, if you're going to set up a booth at the local farmer's market with a tent, get other people to tag you. Have them post social stuff. Create some creative way for them to create a video and mention you. Have them do something for you while they're there. Every opportunity that you have to be in front of your potential clients, you want to leverage that and turn it into content. Even better if it's other people creating it and talking about you than it is you creating it and talking about yourself. Thought leadership. We have a client right now that's doing a local TEDx. That obviously gets him aligned with like the market, being a thought leader. And then newsjacking. trending news topics, find things that people are searching about before the news cycle ends, create a quick video about it. Bless you. Of all the videos that I've done with Mark Lanier, the one video that is his most popular is a video he did about the chess cheating scandal 3 years ago. Does anyone remember this? Right, like some like grandmaster chess champion was cheating, and Mark Lanier is a big chess guy, and he just did a reaction video to the news story, and that was his biggest viewed video. Okay, so personalization. We talked earlier about like me integrating my Gmail, my Google Drive, and my calendar. We are going to be, within the next 1 to 2 years, at a point where everyone's AI model is custom to them. Everyone's. So your ability to track what people are searching for and garner insights from that data, even if you were able to get it, which you can't, is going to be so slanted by those individuals' schedules, by their preferences. I asked a question to my Gemini, and it responded with things that I had never told it, but made sure I took those things into account. I never told it that I have 2 children, but it knew that I had 2 children, and it knew their ages because I was asking about things to do when we were traveling somewhere. And it said, oh, since you have 2 sons, you should consider a family-friendly thing like this. Everything that is going through AI is not an individual instance. Everything that you type into your model, unless you're doing like the little incognito, is training your own model to respond to you in certain ways. That's why that whole trend about a month ago went viral of people asking AI, make a caricature of what you know about me at my job. A lot of those things people didn't actually tell it. I did it for me, it hallucinated. It added my current dog, and it added my dog who's been dead for 5 years. Didn't know. But it thinks it does. And that's the scary part. So this whole concept of personalization is not just AI. Search results are now, because they are kind of hybrid AI-ish, are also personalized. So I produce a ton of video content. I probably release a short a day and at least 1 long form video a week, sometimes 2. And I have tested all types of different formats. The one on the left, purposefully, I wore a black t-shirt. I just had like a plain wall in the background, and other than the text on screen, nothing fancy about it. The other one on the right, it almost looked like a different person, like I slept that night. You've got like cool stuff in the background. We had lights, right? One on the left got over 1,000 views. The one on the right got less than 50 views. I have ones that have gotten 2,000 views. I have ones that have gotten 10 views. I'm just going off of YouTube.
Okay.
This is just to reinforce to you all that polished looks nice. It's great. You want to come off as a very polished individual, but it is okay for you to be better off meeting what the user wants at that time and your message being on point than it being super polished. The way to think about this, keep doing stuff differently. Come up with 10 different videos that you want to create, long form and short form. See what their results are. Then pick the top 3, do those again, and make 7 new things. Test another 10. Pick the top 3, do it again. Keep doing it again. Keep doing it again. The things that wind up sticking and continuously working, lean into those, do more of those things. It may be the really polished videos. It may be the really rough videos. Shorts, in addition to writing copy, like quick video shorts, addressing problems and giving a solution also work, also train the AI, also are good for use on your website. Make sure that you actually have a presence on all of these platforms that are being referenced, Reddit, Instagram, obviously YouTube.
How do you build a presence on Reddit?
So when I say that, I'm not saying build your own presence on Reddit. I'm saying you need to have a presence of people talking about you on Reddit. So you got to find the things people are talking about in your market where they're referencing firms that are not obvious spam, and figure out how you get in those conversations. It's unique. Every situation is going to be completely unique. It may be the managing partner actually using his personal Reddit account and saying, hey, I'm Adam Smalo, right? I actually know about this. If you're transparent and you're not like trying to make it look like you're not trying to get business, and you just tell people like, I know the answer to your question. Here's who I am and why you should listen to me. That's one way to do it. But I mean, each situation is unique. You just have to see what people are posting about and what's relevant to them, and then you have to meet that need. You need to position your brand as the solution, and then video acts as the proof. When you're looking at the assets that you're creating, I encourage you to make sure that the next time you do a video shoot, that you bring your clients in and do testimonials. Instead of just asking them to give you a testimonial, you give them something very specific to talk about. What are the things that have the most importance to you based on your current visibility? What are the negatives that people are talking about you and your firm? And ask them during their testimonial to specifically say the opposite. And then post it on YouTube, and then post it on your website. Monitor for hallucinations around your brand. I don't really know how to do that other than continuously prompt things and make sure that people know that they can let you know that things are happening, and then find those things and figure out ways to combat them. But you need to know, especially with the phone number issue with the bank. I'm sure people will try and target it for law firms. From an ethical standpoint, there are laws actually being enacted regarding use of AI. New York City Bar formal opinion says that you must get client consent before using AI tools to record calls, for those of you who are in New York City. This is going to be more and more present. So a number of people that I spoke to who are actively involved with using AI have talked about this specifically. The one that I want to point to the most is Jerry Joe. He's the CEO of Supio. Supio is like a big AI company. They have a variety of different tools within their platform that personal injury firms use. He said something very interesting. He said, most people do not realize that the things that they put in AI are going to live within that AI in perpetuity. You can't get it back. You can't really purge it. So the things that you are uploading, you need to make sure that the people at your firm actually have policies around what they can and can't do. More importantly, a safeguard here, obviously he's pitching Supio, but Supio, Eve, EvenUp, all of those platforms use their own proprietary AI models. So it is they are housing the data. They're not training the general models. That's one advantage of using these kind of enterprise grade tools, but until they get hacked. Potentially, yes. But I mean, your options are use it and go with the one that's most secure, or, I mean, just don't upload stuff into ChatGPT. Assume that it's going to go out there into the ether at some point. So another rule, the duty of competence. At the end of the day, the lawyers are responsible for the technical features of the AI tools they use. That is why I went so much in depth today, so you guys can at least get a glimpse to start to understand what's going on behind the scenes. Because ultimately, if you're using AI at your firm, if you're following some of the things that you learned either here or in the previous session or in other sessions that you've heard over these past couple of days, you're going to be using AI more than you're using it now. You are responsible for what happens. If it hallucinates, if it sends a text message to your client because you've hooked up some text message automation and that messaging is not what you want it to be, ultimately, the bar is not going to care that it happened through AI. They're going to care that it happened and that your firm was on it. Client consent and surreptitious recording, you need to be very careful about this. You have to make sure that you are disclaiming if you're recording and transcribing calls through AI. Even in one-party states, it could potentially become an issue because the data is being stored, it's being processed in a way that someone didn't necessarily give consent to. You also have specific laws around like biometric data that are now coming out in various states. This concept of voice prints, people's voice is biometric data. It is not necessarily just laws around AI. These are laws around the use of this type of data. Think about truly vetting the AI companies that you may be getting into bed with, or the models that and tools that you're approving your company, your firm to work with. This part is the most important. Do they have a zero training guarantee? Are they promising you on paper that they are not training their models on your data? The duty of candor, RPC 3.3. If an AI hallucinates a settlement you never won because it doesn't have enough information to give back based on the prompt, you're the one facing the bar, not the software. You need to make sure that if you are producing any content through AI, especially at scale, that you understand what's going in that content. Whether a human wrote it or an AI wrote it, it's still the same level of responsibility. And then you've got 5.1 and 5.3 require you to supervise everyone, including AI tools and agents. So you have to have clear policies, train your staff on the ethical use of AI and protecting data. I'm probably like teeing up the cybersecurity talk this afternoon and why this is important. But it really is. I mean, at our agency, you are not allowed to use an AI tool unless it's on our whitelist. We have a specific set of tools that we have vetted, that we are allowing our team to use, and you are never allowed to put client data in, ever, right? Even something as simple as that. If you don't have the time to put together robust policies, you don't want to pull your IT team off or your general counsel off of other things to produce something like this, give at least guardrails. PI lawyers have, from a survey from Affinipay in my case, have adopted AI about 37%. So a little more than a third of personal injury lawyers have adopted the use of AI within their day-to-day. However, only 20% of firms admitted that they actually have a policy around AI use. AI doesn't just exist in a model. It is everywhere. OpenAI released a browser called Atlas. I had a bunch of our tech-hungry team want to know, can we use it? The data came out, and I said, absolutely not. Do not. Please, no. You cannot. We don't know what it's going to do. We don't know what it's going to grab from your computer. You have to be super careful about these things. The next shiny object is not necessarily something that you should just give unfettered access to your systems and your data. So this social engineering and memory poisoning is that concept of getting a phone number to show up for the bank that's not the actual phone number. This can poison AI responses, and it can directly affect your firm. It can affect your clients. You just need to be aware of stuff like this, that it is possible. It's not just potential. It's out there and it's happening. One of the other reasons I don't use AI browsers, in a test, only 7% of security attacks were blocked. That's just a summary of that. Okay, so moving from AI tasks to AI tools. You guys have probably dreamt up a whole bunch of different things that you want to do with AI over the course of today. I'm going to give you specific ways we're using it and specific things that you could potentially do within your firm that will help grow your firm or make it more efficient. One of the best things you can do is take your intake transcripts, run those through AI. Super helpful. You can understand, are your agents actually doing what you think they're doing? You can grade your cases. You can see if calls are new or are follow-ups and start splitting all that out without relying on human error. You could find keywords that people are mentioning during those phone calls. The data is already there, and now you have tools. This is the right way to use AI to do things that would take humans extensive amounts of time to parse through. You have all this information. So I built it. And you can too. I showed this to Rob last week. My team wanted this for LSAs. LSAs specifically, when a call comes into a firm, we many times rely on the firm to put it in their case management system for us to tell what happened on that call. What if it was an existing client? What if it was a junk call? What if it was something that someone put under the wrong source? You're relying on human error. So the solve to this was to create a system with no code that could take the transcript of every call and tell us what happened. So these are individual calls, and I've sanitized this, right? It's able to identify the type of call: premises liability, personal injury, premises liability, medical malpractice, motor vehicle accident. This one is NA, call type, new intake, follow-up, new intake. It grades the case based on defined criteria that we fed it. It scores the call and the agent, and it tells us if the call was signed, if the case was signed on the call, all from the transcript. Open up an individual call, and you get actual tangible data. The agent was graded a C, the call score, not available for this one because of some of the metrics,
Is that
case quality grade.
The agent or actually the quality of the case?
So this one is the agent, and this one is the case quality. You've got a summary here of what it thinks about what happened on the case, if you just need to review it very quickly. And then work. For this client, for them, it's important that the agent asks very specific things, right? Standard greeting. It says, was it hit or missed? This was missed. We will do all we can to help. That's something that they have to say on every call. That was said. Source tracking. So in addition to knowing the data-driven source of this call, we know it came from an LSA, ask, how did you hear about our law firm? Obviously, you know many times that the data-driven source isn't going to match what someone tells you. Gives you more data, right? And then you've got the questionnaire audit. So this is based on the client's actual intake script. Now, all of this was built without writing a single line of code. All done with AI agents and an AI software tool. I just gave it to Rob, and we're just giving it to our clients to just put into their firm because we see that this could be really helpful. Internally, we're using this to help understand what's happening on LSA calls because we don't get the data back from the firm. We even built in a system where it sends an email if that intake was not handled correctly, or it's a high value intake, and we want to let the firm owner know, hey, we had this really important case come through. I'm not saying that this is something that you necessarily need to emulate. What I'm saying is that the ability to do stuff like this used to take months, maybe a year. We built this with off-the-shelf tools and a connection to CallRail, and it costs roughly $100 a month to process the transcripts, to run the AI models, to pay for the software. If you can dream it, you can build it now. The front end was built through just an AI vibe coding tool.
Now you can go back in and read the call in that Google dashboard.
Can it read the call in the Google dashboard?
Read it.
Can it? No.
Probably not.
No. It's all self-contained just to understand what happened on the call. Like an intake manager can just go through and just, hey, this is what's important to me. Everything that gets run through this, I want you to give me this assessment. And every call, they're just looking at it and they're helping coach their agents become better and helping understand how their case docket is shifting based on the marketing they're running. So many cool things that you can do.
So how is AI getting the phone call itself?
So CallRail has a recording. You can pull those CallRail recordings directly through their API without code. And then we're taking the recordings and using OpenAI's Whisper API, which transcribes the.
Voice to text.
Yep. Then once you have the text, then you just tell it what you want it to do with it. Okay. All right. We talked about that. We talked about creating videos at high speed, getting more out, quantity better than quality. And it's kind of weird saying that, but yes, quantity in this case is better than quality. Speed is your competitive advantage, not just in AI. I'm telling you that the pace at which things are moving in our industry is so rapid. The faster you can move, and don't let perfect be the enemy of done. Am I saying that right? Is extremely important because someone else will just be good and they'll surpass you. And whatever opportunity that was there is now gone because things are moving so quickly. So as long as you have the preemptive guardrails in place to make sure that you're not doing things that are unethical or going to put the firm at risk, you need to think about removing some of the handcuffs and giving a little bit more leash to your teams, whether it's your operational team, whether it's your marketing team, to do some of the things that we've been talking about today. Don't yourself get so focused on how you look on camera. Just produce the video. You're focusing on something that someone else is never really going to focus on. Speed is your primary advantage this year as people are still adopting and like trying to figure out how they should do things, and it's free. Speed costs nothing. The faster you can move and make a decision, the faster you're going to get results, or you're going to figure out that this didn't work and then you can pivot. But always keep humans in the loop. It's really, really important that humans are a part of AI. We talked about the Jack Dorsey stuff. Sorry, that just hit me really hard when I found out that he did that, and then blamed it on AI as such like a tech guy to go and just say, AI is the reason why I'm laying people off, when in fact, his company should be exponentially better, faster, more efficient, producing higher quality work with the use of AI instead of laying people off. Vibe coding your own tools. There's a ton of different cool things that you can do. I'm going to show you a couple examples of these really quickly. So this is not something that's live yet. This is for a estate planning firm that we work with. They historically have just been referral based like most estate planning firms are. They said, we want something that people can use to understand what they actually need us for. Estate planning is so broad, we need to kind of boil it down to like, what is the suite of services that this person actually needs from our firm? So we created this multi-step flow, and it's asking you questions and giving you context from the attorneys along the way. So you get to the end and then it tells you, okay, you need X, Y, and Z. Do you have minor children? Do you have a clear path for guardianship? Do you own a house? Is it titled in your personal name? I have a checking account. I just want to show you the output. No.
What platform did you build this in?
Base 44. AI is working. Boom. You have no trust. You have no estate. You have no will. Great. Now we just proved to you that you need us. Right? And then here, create your trust and leads you to a contact form. Book a reservation or book an appointment. That was a concept that was unique to them. Another thing that comes up a lot, cost of probate. We built a calculator. Right? As long as your underlying logic works and you test this stuff, you can do whatever you want. I'm not saying that you, as the leaders of the firm, can have to sit down and actually do this stuff. I'm trying to show you so you guys can understand what is possible, so that if you work with people who actually understand how to implement these things, it can be done. There's very little that can't be done nowadays. Okay, another thing that I've done, I showed you the local legal playbook builder. I created a knowledge base through Google's tool called Notebook LM. So Notebook LM is free for personal use, and it allows you to upload website links, YouTube videos, files, documents, images, and that is the only thing that will reference. So you can ask it questions about those things. So I created a knowledge base of all of the videos of all of our podcasts, and that's what I used when I pulled in the quotes that you're seeing throughout this presentation. Tracking AI visibility is it is expensive today, and I do not trust it. I've tested it, and it does not work. People will tell you otherwise, but you can't look at like your share of voice within some sort of prompt tracking tool as anything meaningful. It just doesn't work. You just have to kind of continuously prompt and see what's happening. There's many reasons why. The difference between being mentioned, being the sole mention, and then getting a link with your mention, all very different things. A slight tweak in the prompt, a little bit of personalization obviously changes the results. Something really cool that was launched, if you were trying to understand like the brand visibility and searches that are happening around your brand, just last month, Google Search Console released the ability for you to filter with AI all of your queries and pages that people are seeing in Google. So you can say, only show me all of my branded queries, make sure you include all attorney names and all spelling variations of my firm name, and only show me those queries or pages that showed up for those queries. And it'll do it. So now you can actually get real data about how your brand is performing or how people are searching for your brand in search. The cost of doing nothing is extremely expensive. The cost of actually moving and testing this stuff is actually really minimal. The biggest investment is a little bit of your time to develop the strategy and a little bit of your time to align yourself with someone internally or some partner who can actually do this stuff for you. We are going to be dealing with much more advanced models as we get towards 2027, Gemini 3.5, ChatGPT 6. They are going to become more and more advanced and more human-like. I fully expect that there'll be autonomous lead nurturing happening at some point. I'm sure someone's already created some variation of this, but the ability to actually get a hold of all people that fill out a form and not having your intake reps just continue to pound the phone and text people to get them to answer, hopefully will go away soon. Something to be aware of are what are called wrappers, AI wrappers, where you've got a tool that can be phased out because the models are getting more technologically adept. So a great example of this is the ability to give a YouTube video to Gemini and say, give me the transcript. You used to have to pay, there was a company called Rev, probably still exists. You would upload it to Rev and then a human would watch the video and would type the transcript out. And then they had an AI version of Rev that was just a fraction of the cost but had some errors in it. There's no reason for that. That is a wrapper around an AI model. Be very careful about signing contracts for things that are effectively just wrappers around technology that is going to wind up becoming common use. So there are real world implications of the advancement of AI. ChatGPT 4.0 was rushed to market with, I think it was 6 days of testing in QA before it went live because Gemini released their more advanced model and Sam Altman said, I'm fucked. I got to get my model out and push the engineers and push QA, and the end result was ChatGPT 4.0, which told kids and adults to kill themselves. If not managed correctly, it's not just a misrepresentation of your law firm. There are real-world human implications of the things that are coming out of these machines, and you need to be very, very careful about what you use them for and what you don't use them for. They're incredibly powerful. Reality now is that if you come across a case of someone who has a child who committed suicide or a spouse who committed suicide because they used AI, these are real cases. These are getting consolidated in federal court right now and are going to be a big mess toward into next year because Sam Altman decided he wanted to rush his product to market without proper testing. We're not on ChatGPT 4 anymore, we're on ChatGPT 5. And we had moved on from ChatGPT 4.0 very quickly once they realized how shitty that model was and how terrible it was at handling prompting related to mental health. For those of you that don't know, OpenAI and Microsoft have a very tight partnership. Microsoft effectively controls the direction of OpenAI. OpenAI, ChatGPT uses Bing, direct integration into Bing in the same way Gemini has access to Google's index. So what we found out a couple weeks ago is that when Bing Webmaster Tools, which is Bing's version of Google Search Console, came out with what they call their AI performance report, no one really thought about this, but I immediately saw the connection. People don't actually use Bing AI Copilot at the levels that are showing up in these reports. This is ChatGPT. You actually have real ChatGPT prompting data available to you right now through Bing Webmaster Tools. It's the best piece of data and insights we have into what's happening in AI. If you haven't set this up yet, it is free. It gives you the grounding queries. So think of this as not the prompts, but these are the query fanouts. These are the searches that are getting done on Bing when someone prompts. So we have real data about how often certain things are getting agentically searched by ChatGPT on Bing to pull into the results to synthesize to show you. We didn't talk about paid today, but before we wrap up, I just want to make sure everyone is aware that a lot of the things that are happening now are profit driven. We don't talk about it, but OpenAI they abandoned their nonprofit direction. They're a for-profit company. Google is responsible to shareholders. OpenAI says that they have ads that are coming in ChatGPT and will be generally available this year. And this is all about getting more ad dollars or subscription revenue. But I think it's going to wind up becoming more towards ad dollars. And you need to have a paid strategy that is evolving beyond LSAs and Google search ads and Facebook ads. You may not know what it is today, but you need to think bigger. You need to understand what's happening within the ecosystem that your clients are in. As I talk to you about all this stuff, I do also want to stress, this is all my interpretation of everything I have read and continue to read every day. And no one has the answers. Do not let anyone tell you that this is definitively how things work, because even the engineers don't know how this stuff works. We have guidance through documentation, and we have results from testing, and that informs the things that we're able to talk about and implement. And these things could change at any point in time, because a lot of the things that are happening with AI are done through AI, are done through machine learning, and even the engineers don't always know. They put some guardrails around it, but just be very careful about taking things that people tell you at face value until you prove it yourself. Run a lot of experiments yourself within your firm. 3 big takeaways. Proprietary data is extremely important, right? That goes beyond your case results, your testimonials, the results of your firm, the big wins. But create your own data, create your own videos, create. As much as you can own the conversation, the better. Get on video, very, very important. Again, biggest takeaways, make sure you're producing as much video content as you can, and then think about being everywhere, because it's not just about where eyeballs are, it's about where the machines are, it's about how they're consuming all the different things around the internet. Fame over rankings, and make sure you implement a firm-wide AI policy. The firms that are building with AI today are going to survive 2027, and the ones that don't are going to be stomped by the ones that are, or the private equity money that is coming into the market. So thank you. That was exactly 2 hours. I will circulate all of this. Thank you very much. I am happy to talk to any of you about this stuff one-on-one during the break. I think there is a break now, right, Rob?
Yes, and I have lunch.
Lunch.
1 hour, and then 2:15 cybersecurity.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.